Ho ho buddies, once Borderline Games. I'm Gareth and today we're playing Chaos Head. And we're in the middle of a bloody contract for our sins. Is that what it's called? One second, let me just double check that. A bloody contract for your sins. That is what it's called. And we are with Fez. It looks like she's got 2 more D-swords than she had before. She was covered in blood, which isn't a good sign, so we don't know why she was covered in blood, but it looks like she might have killed a couple of Giglomaniacs, namely Rimi, and the other one is Nanami's sword, I think, right? I think that's what it is. And then on the right is her sword. Also, she had her book of Psalms and Revelation by, I can't remember what the name of the person was. And we looked at the book. And it was just blank pages. So what does that mean? Does it mean that we actually can't see it because we have a wicked heart or a tainted heart or whatever the terminology Ayase wants to use? Or is it because Ayase is crazy and there is no book and it's just a notepad that she has? Let's carry on and find out. So last we said, was that really true? Was that what was written in that blank book? In the Gladiol book of Psalms and Revelation? If we do not act, the apocalypse will be unavoidable and the world shall see its ending. But if we act now and you and I can stop it, we're the only ones who can. Why just us? I mean, she wants us to help stop an apocalypse of some description for some reason. Guidance. The wicked-hearted king has already eroded in the rest of the Black Knights. Wait. Ayase had said something that the blood on her was from the other Black Knights. Had she killed them somewhere here in the hospital? If she had, then where were all the bodies? Then, right as I thought that, Ayase walked past me and placed her hand on the door. Where are you going? To pee. Yeah, we think that maybe she's killed a couple of Giglomaniacs. With a deadpan expression, she answered me and headed off without waiting for my reply. I looked around the room trying to find more volumes of the Gladiol saga, but no dice. I didn't know how many volumes there were in total, but the ones I picked up before was the 17th, volumes 1 through 16 were nowhere to be found. Of course, it was possible that she had just brought them to the hospital. I still couldn't believe that the book was totally blank, despite seeing it with my own 2 eyes. And so I left the room before Ayase came back. So, the hospital had this corner set up in the far end of the lobby. Countless PCs were lined up there, and they all had internet access, something I'd learned from the countless times I'd been here. Now that visiting hours had ended, all signs of life in the lobby had vanished. I mean, where the hell is Masumi in all this? Even though it was so busy during the day, the lobby was now covered by an eerie silence, making it impossible for me to calm down. I'd definitely get kicked out if a nurse saw me, so I made a dash for the PCs. I wasn't an idiot. I knew a thing or two about Western mythos and stuff, and I'd learned it from all the anime, manga, and games I'd gone through. But even with all that, I never ever heard of the Gladiol saga before. The first time I'd ever seen the name was when I'd looked into Ayase online. So without further ado, time to look it up. I got quite a few results. Way more than I expected, actually, which worried me. Maybe I really was the only one who didn't know about it. But as I looked closely at the results, I noticed one common denominator. All of them had something to do with Phantasm or Fez. Whenever the Gladiol saga was mentioned, it had to do with something Fez mentioned, or Phantasm's world building and other stuff like that. It was all a bunch of hearsay. But no matter how much I searched, I couldn't find any discussion on the actual contents of the book. What does it mean? What does it mean? There was a wiki entry for it, but it barely even touched upon the premise. A series of high fantasy novels based on the Eastern European myth of Gladiol, the wicked-hearted king, told over the course of 23 volumes. It depicts the battle between the 7 Black Knights and Gladiel. It was written by R.C.O. Ziegler from 1929 to 1951. The series had been translated into several languages, but it never gained widespread appeal due to its rather esoteric writing style. Esoteric? That was all that was written there. Compared to the pages on other legends, each of which were filled to the brim with information, this one felt a little lacking. Even the wiki page on D-Swords went into more detail than this. And since this was Wiki Pedophilia, the free encyclopedia, why does it call it that? It's so weird. That anyone could edit. There was really no way of to verify its accuracy. I wonder what Science Adventure, is that what it's called? It's called Science Adventure, right? I feel like that sounds too generic. It's called the Science Adventure series, isn't it? Yeah, Science Adventure series. Yeah. Yeah, I wonder what they have an issue with Wikipedia. Wiki pedophilia. I mean, I guess it's a silly joke. I wonder whether it's just it doesn't really necessarily work translated. It just sounds like a really edgy joke to make. I don't know. The free encyclopedia that could anyone there was no way to verify its accuracy. The picture on the D-Sword page had been entirely off the mark, for example. In the end, there was one thought that kept coming to the forefront of my mind. What if the Gladiel saga was simply a product of Ayase's delusions? Maybe Ayase was trying to create some sort of Lovecraftian mythos or something. Hell, Lovecraft himself, if I remembered correctly, had used his books to share his crazed delusions with others. If that was what Ayase was doing with her songs, then all this, even though it might have sounded kinda cool, was just a whole load of crazy schizo bullshit. And to make things worse, Ayase didn't seem to realise that, and she was confusing it with reality. Was everything Ayase told me nothing but her insane delusions? Maybe the whole apocalypse thing was simply some delusion she wanted to see. Typical Chunibu stuff. Tortured kids who just wanted to see the world burn. Ah, yeah. I guess that includes me. So, if that was true, then what exactly did Ayase actually want to happen? What kind of ending did she wish to reach? How did she want this legend to how did she want it to end? And was she someone I could trust? Well, why am I even questioning it? Ayase is all I have left. Rimi was gone. Senna was kinda crazy, and Kozupi was unreliable. So it didn't matter how crazy she was. She could spout delusions all day for all I cared. Ayase was the only one I could rely on. Plus, she had a D-Sword, there was no denying that, and her songs really had prophesized the New Gen cases, whether they were based on delusions or not. Or New Gen had been happening because her delusions were becoming reality. If anything, though, that just meant that she was even more powerful than I thought. No harm in using that power to my advantage. I needed her, and luckily, for God knows what reason, she seemed to be interested in me. So, as long as I took her words with a grain of salt, I'd probably be fine. Yep, it was all going to be just fine. Famous last words. Roll credits. When I came back to the hospital room... Strike the stake. Strike the stake. I'm assuming that's her. Rend the dark night and bathe in moonlight. Thousands of iron hammers become thy pain. Now thou art released. Before long, the screams flutter in the air, and the night sky becomes tainted in a brilliant red. Ayase was sitting on her bed eating some hospital food. Wait, she wasn't actually eating it. She was just listlessly poking her frozen tofu with her chopsticks, all while quietly singing a song. It was one of the pathetic Phantasm songs, the one that had foretold the third New Gen case, the crucifixion. It was called The Contract of Blood to Seal Our Sin. I was familiar with it myself, as I had bought the album. But in this case, Ayase wasn't striking a steak, rather she was striking her chopsticks into her tofu. Or I suppose it was closer to stabbing. As soon as she saw me, she gave me a faint smile as if relieved about something. I did not think you'd come back. Where did you go? I just wanted to look something up, so I went to use the PCs in the lobby. Sleep here tonight. With me. What? Really? I flinched instinctively at Yase's bold request. Had I tripped a flag without noticing? Are you hungry? You may have some if you wish. She picked up some frozen tofu with her chopsticks and offered it to me. Are you only offering because you don't want it? Yes. She pursed her lips into a smile. The hospital food is abominable. Its wicked heart is drenched in impurity. Of this I am certain. God damn it. Wicked heart's this, wicked heart's that. Was that all she knew how to say? If the two of us were talking online, she'd have been banned for spamming by now. Then, is it still safe to eat even if its wicked heart is tainted? But yours is already tainted, is it not, Takumi? All those boxed lunches and instant noodles, they are a prime example of tainted food. If you wish to awaken as a Black Knight, you should halt your intake of them. Okay, what do you usually eat? Oh, just virgin's hearts. Hearts of a virgin. Chocolate. Chocolate. Chocolate? Shouldn't that be tainted too? Was that actually all she ate? Chocolate? Talk about an unbalanced diet. Hers was even worse than mine. WTF. Chocolate is fine. Its sweetness has the power to repel impurity. Bullshit. You may talk fancy, but really you just have a sweet tooth. Anyhow, Takumi. Open wide. Ayase brought the frozen tofu closer to my face. Yeah, I'll pass. I'm not really a fan of frozen tofu either. I'm good. I cannot accept that. No, what the fuck is going on? This wasn't fair. It was every man's dream to hear a girl say okay, say ah, so why did it do nothing for me? Maybe it was because the food was Ayase's unwanted leftovers. Or maybe it was because she was a 3D girl. Well, she definitely wasn't going to give up trying to feed me, so I reluctantly opened my mouth. As I chewed the tofu, the broth spread throughout my mouth. Very good. Now you are one step closer to becoming a Black Knight, Takumi, and I'm about to break. I sure didn't feel any closer. And now for your vegetables. Please, Ayase, no more. And now it's nighttime. When she'd finished feeding me, Ayase had once again started going on about the Gladial saga, but this time she really got into it. Even once the sun had started setting, she seemed oblivious to the fact that the room was getting darker. Not once had she thought to turn on the lights. She'd certainly thought about turning off the lights. For the most part, though, she'd pretty much gone in-depth on the things she'd already mentioned prior to that. Nothing really was new. And she wasn't exactly the most engaging storyteller, so now I was starting to get sleepy. Though considering that Shogun was still out there, it probably wasn't smart to be dozing off. And that's our duty. Do you understand this? Huh? Yeah. I hadn't listened to a word she'd said, but I decided to just nod for now. But when I did, Ayase squinted at me, then moved in close. You were not listening, were you? Oh. She usually didn't show much in the way of emotion, but I guess even she could get mad under the right circumstances. Maybe I should apologize for upsetting her. It seems that impurity runs deep within in your wicked heart. Oh my god. Again with the wicked hearts. I suppose we'll have to exorcise it before we proceed then. The impurity that has eroded your wicked heart. If we do not, impurity shall never be able to flourish within you. Excise me? What was she trying to do to me? By the sound of it, some kind of terrifying heart surgery. It gave me the chills just thinking about it. But it seemed like my guess was off. With a slightly sorrowful expression, Yase licked her lips. I'd caught a quick glimpse of her pink tongue, and I must admit that moment was extremely sexy. I shall do anything to excise your impurity. If there is anything you desire, you must tell me. Oh, God. What's going to happen now? Anything? Well, I still didn't know what she meant by excise your impurity, but... Well then, how about, for starters... Would you even kiss me? Despite the darkness, I could see the rigidness of her expression. Uh-oh. Maybe I'd gone a little too far. I really didn't want her to start hating me, and I definitely didn't want her to abandon me, so I rushed to apologize. Uh-oh. Or at least I tried to, but she didn't give me the opportunity. Instead, she grabbed me by the collar and shoved me right into her nearby closet. Wait, what are you... Shush! She pressed her body up against mine, and then she closed the door behind us, leaving us tightly packed inside the closet. The closet was incredibly cramped. It wasn't designed for people, because it was a closet. In order for two people to fit, they had to be pressed right up against each other. It didn't really help that I could feel Yase's stifled breaths on my ear. Either. Maybe it was how dark it was, but the situation was really turning me on. What's going on? The nurses are doing their rounds. Oh, so that's why we're hiding. Visiting was prohibited at night, so obviously sleeping over was too. If they found out I was here, they'd kick me out immediately. Okay, but why was Yase hiding with me? There are enemies all around us, even in this hospital. Enemies? The harbingers of Gladiol. They lie in wait for any opportunities to subjugate our hearts. Even the nurses were our enemies. Are you sure that's not just your persecution complex? Quiet! I had no clue what brought it on, but Ayase suddenly sealed my lips with hers. Oh. Doesn't seem that close in that closet, does it? Her lips were so soft. It was enough of a shock to make my mind go completely blank. That was when I heard the door open, and at the same time some strange mechanical sound. Whoever they were trying to be stealthy, but I still had heard them come through the door. She's not here. Who is that? I heard a female voice. I felt like I'd heard it before, but I couldn't exactly remember where or when. Oh, it's what's her name, the serial killer. I worry she ran away. Could she have figured us out? You're right, perhaps I went a little overboard with how many times I made contact. She was talking to someone, but I couldn't hear the other person's voice. She must have been on the phone. Ayase's lips were still glued to mine. Her sweet aroma lingered in the air. It smelled absolutely incredible. It was so soft, and not just her lips, but her breasts, her shoulders, her hips, her thighs. Every part of her body that pressed up against mine was soft as could be. There was probably someone really dangerous standing right outside the closet, but that thought didn't even register in my mind. I was completely lost in pleasure. Have you finished your mission? Oh, so that was just step one, I see. It's about time I head for the scramble crossing then. See you later. May the divine light save you, Momoro. Is it Suo Momoro? That was his name, wasn't it? It seemed like they'd finished their conversation, and with that, the suspicious woman silently left the room. I could tell that the coast was clear. It would probably be safe to come out of the closet now. But Yase still hadn't let go of me. And then for only a moment she pulled her lips away from mine. She looked at me, tears welling in her eyes. Takumi.
I will be your guide, and you will be the Messiah. It has been decided. Therefore, I will do anything. Any wish you have, I shall grant.
I didn't really get what she was trying to say. I figured she was probably just spewing her crazy delusions again, but either way, I didn't mind.
Takumi! Takumi!
Ayase kissed me again, except this time it was nothing like before. This time Ayase's tongue, slick with saliva, forced my mouth open, shoving its way deep inside and coiled around my own. Ugh, it's a bit graphic. Nothing else mattered to me anymore. I just let myself give into the pleasure, embracing Ayase's slender, supple hips. And etc. It was becoming a little hard to breathe. When I tried inhaling, I just ended up sucking on Ayase's hot breaths. Ayase's saliva spilled into my mouth. It tasted incredibly sweet. I swallowed it with audible gulps. My brain was completely paralyzed, mesmerized to the core. I'd never expected the touch of a 3D girl to feel this good. And then she was shot. What's that? I heard a sharp sound off in the distance. Startled by the noise, Ayase backed away.
What was that sound?
Her lips were soaked in the mixture of our saliva. Even in the darkness, it was clearly visible. I couldn't care less about the sound. I just wanted to get back to making out with Ayase and if possible go even further beyond. Hell yeah, losing my V-card for the win! Wait, hold on. Ayase had been with other men before, if so then... Wouldn't that kind of bring down the whole experience? Takumi. Or maybe a rose had just rotted my brain. Nah, there was no way Ayase had past experience. No normie would want to stick their dick in someone this crazy after all. Okay, well, he's still a scumbag. I mean, even Masumi-kun had run away from her.
You mustn't take this lightly, Takumi.
Soz. Whoa. Ayase had slapped me. My hopes and dreams were dashed in an instant. And in their place, anxiety arose. I felt like I was about to cry. Ayase was staring daggers at me, but I couldn't help but cling on to her, all the same. I'm sorry. Please don't hate me.
Do not allow yourself to be dominated by your wicked heart. Let it instead be absorbed into yourself. If you do not, you will never awaken as a Black Knight. Never forget this.
Okay. Pretty sure the reason I'd gotten all turned on was because of the kiss, not all this wicked heart stuff. But I couldn't be bothered trying to argue with her.
Let us go.
Go where?
That sound we heard. That was a gunshot.
Oh, that's, Ban, isn't it? A gunshot? Here, in Japan, in a hospital. It hadn't sounded like one to me. Then again, I'd only ever experienced them in movies and video, so it wasn't like I had any frame of reference as to what a real one sounded like. Even if that was a gunshot, what do you expect us to do about it?
This too has been foretold. The battle against the wicked-hearted king has already begun. The hearts of the Black Knights are soon to be perish. So we must retrieve them, the D-swords. That's the only thing we can do.
The Black Knights were going to perish. Had that bullet we'd heard been fired at someone? We should call the police.
That would serve no purpose. The police have long since been dominated by wicked hearts.
We're reaching unprecedented levels of schizo here. Ayase had completely lost it. The Gladial saga was nothing more than a delusion of hers. Everything she said was nothing more than a delusion of hers. I'd asked myself earlier what kind of ending she wished to reach, and I was still asking. Seriously, what was her end goal here? And what the hell was I supposed to do?
Come now, Takumi.
Ayase was already on her way out. I hesitated to follow her. But that was when I realised The 3D swords leaning against the window were gone. Had she taken them with her? I bit my lip, hesitating for just a moment longer, but in the end, I decided to follow after her. And here we are. Ayase had gone straight to the rooftop. It was almost as if she knew exactly where the gunshot had come from. There was no hesitation as she walked. The hospital's roof had been turned into some sort of garden. The plants were all fully grown and the flowers were in full bloom, but it was too dark to tell what colour they were. I hid behind Ayase and took a look around. I couldn't sense anyone there. In fact, I didn't sense any sign of life at all. Had the gunshot really came from here? And even if it had, who'd fired it? Guns weren't exactly common in Japan. We really should leave. If we stay, we might get shot. But Ayase didn't listen to my pleas. Instead, she moved even farther into the garden, meaning I pretty much had to follow her. And then I saw a dim blue light in front of me. It was extremely faint, as if it'd go out at any moment, but it was undeniably there, flickering in the darkness.
It is a D-sword.
Oh yeah, there it is. Is that Yua's D-sword? It was unendingly elegant, and yet it possessed a razor-sharp edge, as if it longed to cut down all around it. Its presence was completely otherworldly. Two people were lying on the concrete near the D-sword. I recognized them. Yua! The girl in the school uniform with eyes pointing up at the sky was Yua. No doubt about it. What was she doing here? And the other person was a middle-aged man. Looking at him closely, I realized that it was the same detective that had questioned me after the crucifixion case. They were both lying down on the ground completely still. I carefully approached them. That was when I noticed the puddle of blood around them. I jumped back in shock, but it was too late. The crimson liquid had already coloured the bottom of my shoes. Uh-oh. The detective's body was especially soaked in blood. Yua, on the other hand, didn't seem to be wounded. What the hell had happened here? Why were Yua and the detective together? Now that I knew there was a detective involved, the gunshot made more sense, but who had he shot at? Yua? A million questions were racing through my head. So many, in fact, that I couldn't even begin to organise them. I couldn't handle the confusion, so I turned to Ayase for help. Looking as solemn as ever, she ignored the detective and approached Yua's body. Stopping right in front of the pool of blood, she kneeled beside Yua and felt her neck with her fingers.
There is a pulse. Her body still lives. But her heart does not. It has perished. As for the man, his end has already come.
She was speaking in her usual indifferent tone. How can you be so calm right now? That guy is dead!
It's as I said before. This has been foretold.
What do you mean foretold? Are you sure this isn't a delusion you wished would become reality or something?
It is possible, but there's no way to know for certain.
What?
It is of no consequence. The origin matters not.
Then Ayase stood up. And pulled her D-sword out of thin air. She took her D-sword, glowing bright red, and touched it against the D-sword that was stuck in the ground. Suddenly, a high-pitched resonance reverberated through the air. A resonance so shrill it felt like a drill was carving a hole in my ear. Or at least that was the image the feeling evoked. Immediately after the sound began, the shapes of the two D-swords began to effortlessly distort. Their transformation completely ignored the laws of physics. It was like they were made of liquid or clay. The two swords warped repeatedly, as if writhing in pain. The resonating sound only got worse. Unable to bear it, I tried plugging my ears, but it didn't help in the slightest. until suddenly a shockwave ripped through the air. Before I could even begin to understand what was happening, the D-sword in the ground was in Ayase's left hand. Ayase must have been in agony. Her expression made that very clear. But only a moment later, she looked up at me and smiled. She was even blushing slightly, almost like she was aroused or something.
This is the fourth one.
Even though there were corpses right in front of her, and whoever shot the middle-aged detective was probably still nearby. How could you put that sword over literally everything else? Was it really that necessary to get the ending she wished to reach? Did she really need all 7 D-swords to defeat Gladiel? Did Gladiel even exist?
All those who've become giggly maniacs broke at some point in their lives.
I remembered what Senna had told me. I suppose that meant Ayase had also broken at some point. Did that mean I'd eventually break too? Well, the eventually was probably unnecessary after all. I already felt like I was going to break thanks to everything that was happening with Ayase. Ayase quickly erased the D-swords. The 2 of them vanished as if dissipating into the air itself. So, should we report this to the police? Yua was my enemy. I wouldn't lose any sleep about leaving her body here among all this carnage. But I'd already stepped in the blood. My shoes were leaving red footprints all over the pavement, which would yet again be enough to make me a suspect.
We will not be doing that.
A wave of relief washed over me. Ayase was gazing up at the night sky. Her expression still seemed slightly sorrowful.
It is drawing near.
Drawing near? What was?
According to Ziegler's prophecy, Gladiel's awakening is upon us. Gladiel's awakening is upon us. Be vigilant, Takumi. Calamity is about to befall this world.
And we will see what calamity is about to befall this world next time on Borderline Games. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Chaos Head, and I will see you next time. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Bye-bye, 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 bye-bye. Bye. Bye.